Alright, so I've cast these tap handles 3 times as of today and lost PLA, investment casting in plaster of Paris, and 50/50 sand. First time was plaster of Paris only, second time was plaster of Paris and sand, and the third time was plaster of Paris and sand. I think my problem is that I'm getting the mold too hot. At least that was one person's advice to me. You can see this thing has really good definition until you get down here. The bottom was the closest part of the mold to the furnace. And if I had a pottery kiln, I could probably do this more effectively and efficiently, but I mean, you can see there's a lot of deformation. The slot came out good though. I mean, that actually turned out amazingly for how thin that is. That turned out really well. This is what I came up with. So I found a piece of material that we had laying on the shelf. This is actually somebody's bathroom liner. We kept the plastic from it because it was in really good shape. But it's roughly 420 thousandths thick, which is an odd thickness, I know that. But it happens to be pretty daggone close to the dimension of half of this tap handle. So here's what this looks like. You can see the blue outline in there. That is the blue tags that we have here that I stuck together and wedged in wide enough to cover the gap. This is also blue tags that I've super glued together, let cure for 12 hours, and wrapped in aluminum foil to try to help them withstand the heat. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't have any idea. I mean, I've never tried anything like this before. So I'm doing all the definition to the top of this mold. I'm wondering if we can get away with doing this catty corner. Well, we could have if I had cut this thing properly. Well, that's not going to work. So we're doing it like this. Let's see how much of this sticks over. That's not too bad. That is not too bad. Alright, so I'm going to ram this up and we will see what happens. I'll turn you guys on for the ramming process and then for the reveal. I'm going to flip it over, take the white off, and then I'll ram up the backside, and hopefully there'll be an imprint of the top of the tags that I can line this up with, so that when I cast it, there'll automatically be a cubby inside that. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't have any idea. I don't know what their reaction is going to be to the super glue. Oh wow, listen to that, the rain's coming. I don't have any idea what the reaction is going to be to the super glue on the paper. I would assume that it's going to flame up. It may not. It may blow out the mold. I don't have any idea what's going to happen. So this is going to be an experiment, and I'm going to record the whole thing so you guys can see everything that goes down. Alright, let's get this party started. Pretty stinking good release there. Some really good release there. The mold still looks like it's pretty okay. Yeah, I didn't pack. I was afraid of that, not packing tight enough on the backside of that mold. I'm gonna cut everything in and we'll see where we end up. So I think we're gonna be all right. The flash out and the breakout happened at the tag, which will just be a matter of cleaning up afterwards. So I'm gonna roll with this. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna roll with this guy and see what happens. Yeah, I don't know what to expect. No idea, no clue. Never done anything like this before. Never done anything like this. I was worried about what would happen when the paper catches fire. So I cut this little guy here. I may just clear that out just to give it some expansion room. I don't know what'll happen, if anything, but we'll know if it fails because we'll have stuff up in that opening. So, alright, I'm going to close the mold now. I'm not going to do a trial close because I don't want to risk damaging any of that stuff. So we're just going to set this thing down on here, hoping it'll hold that piece in place. I mean, you can see this. Yeah, I'm hoping it'll hold that in place. There should be some pressure there, some squeeze, and it shouldn't shift around a lot. Let's see what happens when we close it. So if we see any stuff coming out of that hole right there, we'll know that my core failed. I've never tried to do anything like this. So this is my first cored mold. So who knows if it'll work. This might be a total belly flop like all the rest of the stuff. I say that every time I do one of these because you truly never know what you're gonna get. So let's hope this works out. I wish that I had gotten some pictures of that stuff so that I could post it. But I'm going to shut you guys off. I'm going to fire up the furnace because this furnace, now that I've got this thing running the right way thanks to Chirpy, really turns up the heat. It is really crazy how hot this thing gets. So I'm going to roll with this thing and we'll see what we end up with. All right, you guys will see the pour. I'm not going to show you the furnace fire up because it's just not need. You've seen one start up, you've seen them all, hopefully. And yeah, so that's where we're at. Well, we got some smoke coming up through there, but I don't know if that means we burnt through that or not. That took a lot of aluminum, and all of our vent holes are filled, so that means that mold must have filled. We'll have to see how well the core held up. All right, she is fresh out of the furnace. I let it, sit and cool for a little bit. I have no idea what to expect. I'm kind of really freaking excited about it, and I just don't want to wait. So I'm going to do the lift off and reveal with you guys right now. Holy smokes, folks. Holy smokes. Look at how good that looks. Look at the detail. Oh my gosh. Now listen, this is only going to be really awesome if my core worked out and that cubby turned out. But man, look at the freaking, look at the definition. Those are pure hops, baby. Those are pure hops. Let's get you in close so you can see that stuff. I mean, look at the definition there. I don't even know if you can see that. But man, the definition, it's an awesome. So that's a 2-part sand mold. This is a lost PLA lost PLA plaster mold. So this is what I'm most concerned about. If this doesn't turn out on this mold, then this is totally worthless. But I'm hopeful. This is promising. This looks promising. So I'm going to get everything out and get all my sand dug out of here, all my burnt sand out of the mold, as you can see. And then I'll fire you guys back up. We'll get it out and we'll see if the core worked. This dig out, because I don't know what I'm going to find, and I want you guys to be here for whatever it is. So I don't know if you can see that, but that to me looks like the core I made, and it is, and the problem is that it floated, and I hadn't even given that a thought. So if I had done this the opposite way, that core would be in the exact spot that it needs to be in. Man, the clarity and the color, everything is so clean, man, that sucks. So if I had just done that upside down and done this right side up, so that this had been cope and this been the drag, this probably would have worked, because it would have floated. It would have floated to where it was going to be held, or would have been held by the mold. Because I did it upside down, there was nothing to keep this from floating, and that's what that is. I'm sure of it. Yep, sure is, man. That sucks. But that's charcoal, just like I thought it would be. I mean, that works. So that's a good solid maneuver. Now I just have to come up with a way to keep it in place, keep it from floating. Not exactly 150% sure how I'm going to keep it from doing that. But well, I don't know if we need to show anymore. This was a fail, but not for lack of trying, and my idea is sound because it didn't distort that much. I mean, you can see that it did here. Man, I was really hoping against hope that would work. That's a bummer. Tragedy! But everything else on this thing looks really good. So what I need to do is figure out how to do the sand casting with a plaster insert. Cast in the sand for this and the plaster for this. I'm gonna have to think on this. That's a stinking bummer, man. Look at the definition in the letters. I mean, those letters are so clean. Very minimal flashing. That sucks. Bummer, guys. Sorry I let you down. Alright, so I'm going to skip around a lot in this video. So you've already seen me ram this thing up once. It worked really well. I did a little bit of touch-up work on the mold, and I made a couple new cores, which I'll show you shortly. So I don't think I need to videotape ramming this mold back up again. I'm essentially going to do it the same way I did the last one. We're just going to avoid using a core, and I'll machine the core out of this thing. I'm going to use a tiny core up here, because this will be the hardest part to cut in with a round object. I'll end up doing a lot of jigs. I mean, well, yeah, I could probably use a jigsaw for it, but I'd end up doing a lot of hacksaw blade work up here to cut this groove in. So I fixed down here on the mold so that I wouldn't get this rough turnout. But man, I love the finish on this thing. I'm saving this just in case nothing else turns out. Then I'll mill this out and weld it shut, and then machine it again so that you'll never even be able to tell. But hoping it doesn't come to that. I'm hoping I can get two really good castings today. So that's my goal. I'm gonna ram this up. I'll go get the cores and show you guys the cores. I'll ram this thing up, and then next thing I'll be doing is pouring it. Alright, so this is what the cores look like. This one's totally covered in foil. This one, half the foil ripped off. So I'm gonna use this side down. I think like this when I pour it, or like this. I haven't decided yet, not really 100% sure. So these are the cores I'm going to use. They're super rigid, and because I'm only going to use them to cover that top part, hopefully hopefully that'll work and I don't have to worry about these floating, because 2/3 of this is held in place by the mold. It's just this tiny little section right here that's actually out in the aluminum. Alright, so I'm going to ram these up and get the furnace started, and then we'll see how the first pour goes. Alright, I promised you I'd fire you back up for the reveal. Well, this so far is the best one. You can make out every single letter in there. You can make out the beer. And I did this without a core, so all of this is going to need machined tomorrow. I bought Woodruff key cutters, and I'm going to just take them in there and make a 16th inch slot, the same depth the whole way around this thing. And hopefully I can make it up through there and get to the other side. But this is the first one that I didn't have, you know, very little flashing on the inside. I mean, you can see compared to the other ones I've done. You look at that giant mound in there. This was by far the best, and this is my second, so I was only going to cast 2 tonight, but this has inspired me to do a third. So I am going to do a third one, which will be the most amount of castings I've ever done in one night, and we'll see how it turns out. Hopefully it's as good. If not, I'm going to be really disappointed I wasted my own time. So these are the finished products. This one, I'm not sure if you can make out the letters here or not. Gonna have to dye them black. Tomorrow I'll be milling these things out and doing it. We had some shrinkage in this one for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't really care for it though. That kind of sucks. I don't know if it's because I pulled the sprue off too soon, or if the sorry about that. If the runner didn't backfill fast enough. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that's gonna need fixed for sure. That definitely won't take that. And this one, it also shrank a little bit. Wow, that is crazy. A lot, actually. Wow. Okay, so we've had quite a bit of shrinkage in these two. And I wonder if these didn't because of the core. I think that's probably why it didn't. So here they are. I'm going to weld on these, clean these up. Detail on the hops is pretty dang good. These things turned out pretty stinking amazing. I'm pretty impressed. I'm going to cut these off, cut the runners off. And then I'll spend tomorrow machining them, and then I'll fire these things back up so you guys can see what these things look like totally cleaned up. Have a great weekend.